Hey everyone, this is Elijah from Royalty Card Gaming, aka The Lord. This is my Dromai Ash Artist deck tech for you. In the coming weeks, me and Cody are going to be doing a battle gauntlet, putting Dromai and Riptide through our testing process, getting ready for Road to Nationals. So this is the deck tech that I'll be using. Any tweaks that I may make before my time's up, before we get to our Road to Nationals, we'll cover that in a separate video. First off, Dromai Ash Artist, you can't really tell from the altar that I had done here, but her hero ability states that whenever you pitch a red card, you get an Ash token. And then whenever you played a red card, all your dragons have go again for the turn. And then you have Storm Sandakai, which, static ability, lets your dragons attack for free. Pretty simple, straightforward. Illusionists usually don't have a whole lot in terms of their weapon. Alright, so for the equipment, I have Crown of Province, Seeker's Mitts, Flame Scale Furnace, and Mage Master's Boots. So pretty straightforward stuff. Flame Scale, you literally can't play Dromai without it. Once per turn instant, pay 1, gain a resource for each red in your pitch zone. Use this ability only if you played a red card. Too easy. Blocks for 2, got temper. Too easy. Probably my favorite card they came out of Outsiders. Seeker's Mitts. Pay 1, destroy it. Prevented damage, opt 1. This could literally just say pay a resource, destroy it, and opt 1, and I'd still do it. Crown of Province, most of us are pretty familiar with this card by now. Mage Master's Boots, not really a better leg piece. I'm playing the Big Dragon version, so no Snapdragons, just Mage Master's Boots. Pretty easy stuff. This is your de facto loadout you'll probably see with any Dromai that you're going to play. And then I have Null Rune, Ghostly Touch for the sideboard, Wizards, Rune Blades, anything popper heavy like Brute, Guardian. Pretty straightforward. All right. Our first thing we're gonna do our attack actions. The infamous Command and Conquer. Give and Take. This card has done really well for me. Blocks for 3. You pay 1 to do 3 with Go Again at a minimum. Maximum, they defend with it, and you get to loop it over and over again. Great card. Burn them all. Go Again Aura. Blocks for 3. It's red. Does arcane, incremental arcane. Try not to do that early if you can, but it gives your dragons Go Again. Dust Up. Great card for if you 0, 4, blocks for 3. If it hits, it has a relevant on hit of creating an Ashwing for you. Important to note too is that you can just create the Ash token and not do the Ashwing. Also a good outcome. You may run into a couple scenarios, especially early game, where that is relevant. Rake the Embers. Man, this is probably the best card in the deck. A 1. Go Again. Blocks for 2, that kind of but it's pretty good. Create an Ash token, and then transform 3 Ash into Ashwings. So technically it'll create 2, because you'll pitch for 1 preferably a red, make an Ash token, and then turn all three into Ash Wings. This is really good against decks that go tall. Like, this is a win condition in some decks, or some matchups rather. Alright, Sweeping Blow. Make 2 Ash, 3 and 3, go again. Great card. Alright. Up next is the relevant blue cards. You're not going to run a whole lot of blue cards in this deck. With her hero ability, it kind of dictates to you that you're going to want to run a majority of reds, but you got some things you need to cast that are more than one, so these blues do come in handy. Time Snap Potion. Man, in this deck, there's way too many applications where this is important. Destroy it, gain 2 action points. Really good with Tome of Fiendal, which we'll get to in a moment. When you're playing your auras on big popper matchups, like lending you double aura, great card. Even a matchup where you have a lot of poppers and you have a big board of dragons, you play this, or you pop this, gain your 2 action points, and then swing your dragons at them and force a bunch of poppers out of their hand. Embermoth Centipede, cost 2, 6, blocks for 3. Most of the time you'll be blocking with this, but in the early game it's really great to get some Ash out. Pursuit of Knowledge. This one actually has surprised me a couple times. Into Dragons. This is pretty much you have a 5-card hand. Otherwise it's a blue. Threatening a good on hit. You have Sweeping Blow. Again, this is a good Ash generator. Blocks for 3. Can't really ask for anything else. Alright, and that's it for the blue cards. Alright, up next, we have the defensive stuff, which Big Dragon Dromai is pretty much known for. Mine's a little different than most lists you'll see with this. I tend to favor a lot of defensive stuff. I'm more of a long game player, especially with this deck. We'll cover why that is here shortly. Tome of Fiendal, like we had said. This is just an amazing card with Mage Master's Boots. This pretty much says pay 1, gain 5 life, and draw 2 cards. Such a good. You don't want too many of these because they do block for 2. And unless you got a Dromai or that Time Snap Potion, you're probably gonna block with it. Sigil of Solace, gain 3, a red, instant. This is pretty much what you do to. This is a good card for countering Kano. This is a good card to just have in general because it's pretty much a red for 0. Turns your dragons on, gains you 3 life. Puts the game at a longer state, which you have a better chance of winning when the longer the game goes on. Fate Foreseen, 2 copies. I would like a third, but I had to make a cut. And there's a lot here already, so I'm contemplating between another one of these and cutting a Oasis, but Oasis has been overperforming for me. Gets around Dominate, which will lead us into that. Oasis, pay 1, block 4, or prevent 4, and then gain a life sometimes. You're cool with that because it's pretty much gaining you an Ash at the same time. Great card. Really, really like that card. Sink Below, de facto. D-React. Like, this is the D-React of all D-Reacts. Put a card in the bottom of the deck and draw a card. All right. And then what everybody's here for, the dragons. All right. A couple important things to note with these. And this is where you're going to see, I think, the majority of individuality with Dromai lists. Like, everybody, these are very play style dependent. I mean, obviously some dragons are better than others, but I think with how you play the game is sort of what dictates what is what. Going through Invoke Mirror Guy. Really simple. He blocks Phantasm for you. And here, let me pull these out. Here we go. Your first dragon loses Phantasm. I mean, that's pretty great. Asvolai, whenever he attacks, deals Arcane up to any 2 targets. Cool interaction with this is the dragon that is very good against Dromai. If they tend to swarm with Ash Wings, this is the card that counters it pretty hard. So little tip when you're playing against another Dromai is to kind of hold on to these, pitch stack them if you can, and you'll clean the board pretty efficiently with them. Up next is Caloria. Whenever it hits, you steal an item, relevant versus dash. If not, draw a card, relevant versus everyone else. Uvia. At the start of your turn, make another Ash Wing. I mean, she's pretty Ash hungry, but you have enough reds in here to support it, and you are trying to set this up versus some a lot of go tall matchups. If she sticks around for a couple turns, you basically got that in the bag. Yendarai, he's like your tough boy dragon. Has a damage counter or damage prevention counter of 3 damage on him. He's pretty standard. All right, and Dromai. Sorry, it's probably a little harder to read. Once per turn, if he attacks or leaves the arena, gain an action point. You can set up some pretty crazy plays with this guy. Usually no one's happy when you play him, so try and keep him out if you can. The longer he's out, the value is just, you catapult ahead in value with that. Tomotai. Whenever you attack, you destroy a piece of equipment. Cool interaction with that is, if you're not in desperate for Ash at the start of the game to pop the Seeker's Mitts, try and use them with this guy. You can, with Flame Scale, you can kind of cheat around some costs using the Seeker's Mitts as well, but the opt is very relevant versus most matchups where you're trying to destroy something of theirs, like Ninja. So, very important. I don't have the other piece of Dominia, but what she states is that when you attack with her, you reveal the top card. If it's a red, you look at the opponent's hand and you can banish a card from their hand. Good way to get around poppers. She does have 4 health, swings for 4, and costs 4. So, and that's all I play for the main board dragons. All right, moving on to the sideboard. All right, Invoke Thamai. Invoke Vincerikai. Dust of the Red Desert. Remembrance. And Passing Mirage. I did 2 Remembrance because I keep running into situations where I wish I had another copy of a card. If being able to recycle Tomotai or Dominia or Vincerikai is just too powerful. Command and Conquer, playing 6 of those a game is obviously really strong. There's too many. And then, in Guardian matchups and other Pauper matchups, being able to recycle key dragons when you need it, like Marigai, it's too important. And if you don't respect the fatigue game, you'll lose. So, speaking of Pauper matchups, Passing Mirage. First attack each turn, loses and can't gain Phantasm. Important distinction between Marigai is that it's only for dragons. This is for anything. Cool play with this, especially if you have a Marigai out already, swinging an attack action at them that has Phantasm, and then swinging a dragon and both don't have Phantasm. It's great. With your Time Snap Potion, you can put out 2 of these, and making it really difficult for any big Pauper matchup to do that, because they're essentially going to have to take 2 turns off to deal with it. Invoke Thamai. Really, this is basically an auto win versus Kano, and there's a lot in my area around here, CSRA area. We worry about wizards around here, so he's here to make sure I win that matchup. Vincerikai, just an extremely hard-hitting dragon. Swings for 6, threatens 9. He does only have 1 health, but when you're swinging this at the people, they gotta respect it. And then Dust of the Red Desert gives a Vincerikai, or removes Phantasm from Vincerikai, making him even more of a threat. So, he should be in the main board. I like Uvia. Uvia's been overperforming for me lately. You'll probably see why when I play Cody with his Riptide. You'll get a good reason why. However, versus more aggro matchups, this guy is significantly better than Uvia is. So that's it for the cards. Just going over a few things too, since with this deck tech I want to cover a couple key notes. There's a few. So this deck's budget comes out to about $730, but it's important to note that a lot of the budget comes out of only like a couple cards. So we're gonna have this age-old discussion between Crown of Providence and Arcanite Skullcat. I like Crown of Providence. It's obviously very good. Its price tag is, I don't know about warranted, but I can understand it. Like this card it pretty much negates an entire Command and Conquer on their side. Is able to give you like a 5-card hand if you arsenal bad. Like it's such a good card. However, it's also like $230 right now at the time of recording, roughly $220, $230. And this is like $50, and You know, you'll probably never use the Arcane Barrier 3 on it, but having a 3 block, essentially a piece of head equipment, because with Illusionists in general, you're going to play down the trail game where you're taking damage in order to generate value. And then it comes to a point where you're at kind of a big life deficit from the other person. And then all of a sudden you just explode ahead. And this really kind of complements that play style. Really good card. Just kind of outclassed by this one. This is the new. This is the old. So, you can't go wrong with this though. Like if you can't afford this or you didn't pull it or whatever, like this is a perfectly valid alternative. Another thing too is the Command and Conquer. Playset's gonna set you back, 150, $160. Cards like a Race Face. There's a card that came out in Outsiders, Wreck Havoc. Basically your budget CNC. I mean, it can't go wrong there, and that card's like, 30 cents. So can't really go wrong with that. The only thing I'd say that is probably mandatory in this deck, I already alluded to it earlier, is Flamescale Furnace. You don't really have a choice. Like, you could play without it, sure, and there have been decks that have done it and won some stuff, but the value that you gain off this is just, it's too good to not have it. And it, the Rainbow Foil copy is like $80, $90, something like that. But the way I look at it is, if you're dead set on playing Dromai, you have to have this card. Like it's not really a thing. Those are really the only two budget choices. But you cut those two and you're going to save, probably like $400. And that, I mean, for an 80 card deck, that's pretty good. Couple of tips and some advice I want to give to any of the new Dromai players out there, because I know this hero is pretty popular and you're going to be seeing them all over the place. As I've been playing this, I've come across a couple things that I found important, and like some of these are going to apply to every hero, but Dromai really highlights a lot of it, like knowing your fundamentals of how to block, when to pitch stack, what to pitch stack, how to sequence cards. Like she really rewards you for knowing how to do that. You can really get out of some bad situations by just sticking to the core fundamentals of the game and blocking for efficiency. All right. First thing is, in the early game, specifically with the Big Dragon version, is to prioritize your Ash generation. I showed you Uvia, and every dragon here. Like, you don't want to whiff that on the early game, or whiff an opportunity because you didn't have Ash. Like, you have a bunch of tools here that give you Ash. Seeker's Myths being the main one, but popping your Mage Masters for an Ash and not really utilizing the rest of it, like, that's perfectly valid. Like, this is, before this card came out, this is what we were doing, is destroying this for an Ash. If we had an all red hand with all dragons, like, we had to do something. So perfectly valid. Getting an Ash is probably the most important thing, and your entire goal in the first turn of the game is just putting Ash on the board. Okay, this one kind of applies to every hero, but illusionists in general get rewarded heavily for this. Pitch stacking. There's plenty of videos out there on how to do it. It's the trick to it that I've found is to memorize the first card that you pitch, and when you when you sequence how you sequence it. Like if you're say for instance, we'll draw like a hypothetical hand here. All right, I have a give and take. Oasis Respite. A Sigil. And a Sweeping Blow. So this is my first hand of the game. No dragons, which, is okay. Say for instance, I'll play the Sweeping Blow to pitch this. Generate 2 ash tokens. Sure, we'll use my cool ash token. Generate 2 of those, and then we'll flame scale for 2, and then give and take for 3. So we've presented 4 damage, which, the damage doesn't really matter, but we've generated 3 ash on our first turn, and now, like, for the most part, as we're playing, like, we can keep the tempo going with 3 ash. Like, we're set for the following turn and probably the turn after. Just by that really simple hand. And especially in the early game, like, pushing damage, that's gonna happen. It's just maybe not early, but it will happen. You just got to be patient. Which moves me on to my next point, is this hero rewards patient play. Specifically the big dragon Dromai. Like, yes, there's the Empress Dromai that Mara Ferris has been championing and has been doing it to great success. But this big dragon more suits my playstyle. I like being patient. I like testing other people's fundamentals. Like, it really, to me, it shows how many people, like, are actually trying to compete in this game. And, yeah. And it forces me to do it, too. So it isn't all about the other person. Like, this deck forces me to know the game. So, moving into the next is to know the deck that you're playing with. I went through all this time and showed you this deck tech. The more you play, the more you start memorizing what cards are in the deck. Keeping track of it in your graveyard is a big thing. You don't want to run out of threats. The worst feeling is running out of dragons in the middle of, like, an Oldham matchup or a Bravo matchup or a Rhinar matchup because you were too aggressive and you weren't keeping track of it. Like, you lose the game on the spot if that happens. So just knowing, keeping track of your cards. While basic, when you got everything going on, it's hard to, juggle everything. Like, this hero can generate a pretty complicated board state if you're not careful. And that comes from reps with the hero. Like, just play the game and eventually that'll happen. And then I want to go over a tip for each of the pieces of equipment. All of these serve like a major purpose. Illusionists in general are pretty reliant on their pieces of equipment. Like, it's pretty insane, like, how reliant they are compared to some heroes. So, all we'll start. Major Masters boots. We kind of covered it already. You can double aura. And then, Toma Fiendal coupled with this is just like explosive value, like gaining 3 life or gaining 5 up to 5 life, drawing another 2 cards. And if you pitch a blue with it, you still have a resource floating from that. And it feels like you haven't lost anything from it. So it's pretty great. Up next is the Flame Scale. Important to note, it is an instant. So I kind of covered this a little bit with Rake the Embers. It requires you to play a red card, but you can play a red card and then respond to you playing to the red card. So you can kind of play them simultaneously, and it's a good way to filter cards out of your hand, especially in the early turns, because like I said, your sole focus is generating ash tokens. So you're super reliant on this to aid you in that. Like this, I can't state like how important this piece of equipment is for Dromai. Like I feel like she doesn't function very well without it. So mandatory piece. And I don't think I can say that enough. Seeker's Mitts. This, as with all illusionists, like your hand spot is probably your most flexible spot. Like if you have a preference to say like Silken Form, this is pretty good. I tend to prefer this though because A, it's an instant, it pitches for 1, and it opts. Like I want to do all 3 of those things, so I feel like it's pretty good. Not to understate though that this is pretty solid arm piece for being a common specific. You also have a Wave of Reality. You'll see some lists out there that run that because it's pretty low maintenance. It'll block 2 separate pieces of damage for you. I don't like the fact that I can't control it. So if someone pushes damage on me and I didn't want to break my arm piece, I don't have a choice. So, and then, of course, one of the most expensive pieces, negates a Command and Conquer and gives you a 5-card hand if you arsenal a dead card. I mean, not much more to say. This is an amazing card. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck tech. Thank you so much for hanging around this long. I really appreciate it. Hoping to have some more gameplay videos for you, or some gameplay videos for you guys coming soon. Maybe some more deck techs. I got a couple other decks I want to do. On the wake of Dusk Till Dawn, I'm a pretty big Bolton enthusiast as well. I want to do some testing with him once this Road to Nationals is over and really try and get him up to speed, because he's pretty lacking right now, and it hurts my heart. So yeah, thank you. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We'll have our Twitch in the description below. Thanks again, and you guys have a good one.